Holy cow, we made it to Monday, and what a weekend it was. I've seen some wild football weekends in my lifetime. I don't know if I've ever seen one like we just witnessed, and we will break it all down. It's Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. For the next 2 hours, we got great guests. We got great football and lots to get to, and let's start with the last of the games. Ironically, we're starting with the only game that didn't come down to the very last possession over the weekend, but a statement was made. Caroline, the Patriots went out, and this is a Patriots team that we're saying, who knows? We've never seen them in this playoff situation. What's going to look like? We got the answer of what it looked like. They absolutely went out and confused the Chargers. Their defense was all over Herbert for the entire game, and they win convincingly. The only convincing win of the entire weekend in the NFL belonged to the New England Patriots, who dismantled the Chargers 16-3 in a game that, frankly, didn't even feel that close.
And it wasn't even really that pretty, but it was dominant in a way, a 16-3 win. And it felt gross and it felt like a slogfest, but it was still the Patriots game really for the entirety of that game. And I think my biggest takeaway from the Patriots taking down the Chargers, and there's a whole Charger side of this that we absolutely positively will and need to get into, but focusing on the Patriot side of things, Drake May did not play his best brand of football. Drake May turned the ball over twice. He had the lost fumble. He had the pick. It wasn't his best day, specifically in the first half. Really, in the second half, I felt like Drake May settled in. He started to get things going more in the pass game, started to get things going more in the run game as well. But really, overall on the day, Drake May didn't have his best performance, didn't have his MVP caliber, F it, I'll put the team on my shoulder kind of day. But the Patriots still found a way to win in the postseason against a team that's been there before and do it in really convincing fashion. It was the defense stepping up, sacking Justin Herbert 6 times, holding the Chargers to just over 200 total yards, holding the Chargers to 1 of 10 on third down and 1 of 3 on fourth, holding the Chargers to 0 points when Drake May coughed the football up within the New England 10-yard line. So it was true complementary football on the ground, defensively, and Drake May really settling in and looking more like the Drake May that we know and New England fans love in the second half than they did in the first. It was such an impressive, complete performance from the Patriots.
I mean, we always talk about what quarterbacks do for their offensive linemen for Christmas. Drake May should give that entire defense a gift after this game because, to your point, that defense kept him in it. In fact, starting linebacker Robert Spillane after the game actually referenced the fact that he said Chargers players came up to him afterwards and said, man, we couldn't even figure out what coverages you guys were in. So that speaks to how well this defense was coached, how well it was coordinated, how well it was called, how well it was disguised. The Patriots defense was really the thing that was on display. This was a 3-3 game that turned into a 6-3 game that turned into a 9-3 game where I just felt like we were never going to get a touchdown, Caroline. Like this was one of those ugly defensive battles, but frankly, there was no room for error for the Chargers because their offense couldn't get anything going. And there is a moment here where I watched Drake May, and I'm just being honest here, being blunt. If Herbert had played even as well as Drake May had, the Chargers might have won this football game. Drake May wasn't afraid to use his legs. He ends up with 10 rushes for 66 yards in this thing on top of the 268 yards passing. But it really felt like when the Patriots needed a play, when their backs were up against the wall and they needed a third down conversion, or they had to find a way to run for it, they had to find a way to trick the Chargers defensively, Drake May was able to make plays that Justin Herbert wasn't. So I think this is a huge growth point for the Patriots. It's a huge statement game. And the Chargers, at the same time, are going to have to look in the mirror and figure out what the heck they're doing wrong, because now Justin Herbert joins a club of, some elite quarterbacks and some non-elite that have started 0-3 in his playoff career. So the Chargers are going to have to look in the mirror and figure out what's going wrong.
And I think it starts with Greg Roman. That's at least where my conversation starts, with what is going wrong with the Los Angeles Chargers. And this isn't just a 2025 season issue. This isn't just an Herbert issue. This isn't just a Chargers issue. I mean, Greg Roman, going back to his time in Baltimore, is 1-5 5 in the postseason. With both Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson, the two quarterbacks that he's coordinated, the combined two have a average 55% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns and 8 interceptions between the two of them in those 6 games. Greg Roman feels like it's the issue. And look, we can talk about the offensive line injuries, and that's a massive part of the reason why the Chargers are in this position. They couldn't get anything going in the run game last night. Kamani Vidal was really held in check for a large portion of last night, and you can point to the offensive line injuries. Like, this isn't a 100% Chargers team, but no team is 100% in January in the postseason. So I don't think this is a Justin Herbert issue. I don't think this is a Jim Harbaugh issue at this point right now. To me, the most obvious and glaring issue is the offensive coordinator in Greg Roman.
Now, I agree with that. The one thing I would say, I'm going to be consistent here. You know, I have not freaked out about quarterback performances in the playoffs. I'm not natured to do that. And I'm not freaking out about Justin Herbert having another, weird game. You mentioned the offensive line. I will stress here, the offensive line protected him well enough to let him throw the football. Now, if you believe the way that was being called on the broadcast, guys just couldn't get open. Whatever that might be, what we do know at this point is that he had the time to throw the football. All I'm saying is I want to keep that same energy because, frankly, if we had just watched that same inept offense, as much as there's context to why, if we've watched that same inept offense and it had been Josh Allen as the quarterback, today's conversation would be, did Josh just ruin his legacy? If we watch Lamar have that exact same game, that's only going to fuel the fire of all the people that say you can't win a Super Bowl with Lamar. He's a bum, all the things that we say. Again, I'm not one to hop on any of those. I just want everybody else to keep that same energy. If you are one that freaks out about quarterback performance, where's you freak out about Justin Herbert? There's a grace for the way that we cover Justin Herbert that I don't always understand. And sometimes I think it's because so many brilliant people that do great job with film study and do great job with just insights on quarterbacks tell us constantly how great Justin Herbert is. And kind of like when we're all in high school and you're in math class and like the smart kid goes up to the chalkboard and does it, you don't think the answer's right, but you're like, wow, they're smarter than I am. We have a lot of that with Justin Herbert, it feels like. So I understand that this isn't a loss that I personally pin on Justin Herbert. I'm just saying that's consistent for me. If you are the type of person that pins every loss on the quarterback that loses the game, which is how we cover most of the quarterbacks in this game, then Justin Herbert should have some big question marks today.
Justin Herbert should have some big question marks today. And I don't think that there's a sweeping statement to say that all 3 losses of Justin Herbert's playoff career are, either all on the team, the coaching staff, or either all on him. Like, we've seen Justin Herbert lay some eggs in playoff games. He had, 4 picks in last year's playoff game? That's squarely on the quarterback. We can point to the quarterback and say, you single-handedly, and every interception has a different story. Was it protection? Was it a miscommunication between he and the offensive coordinator? Was it a miscommunication between he and the receiver? We can talk about that and nitpick that all day long. But at the end of the day, when the box score says 4 picks, I'm going to say that's on the quarterback, and that's a big reason why you lost that football game. So today, I don't wake up saying, man, Justin Herbert really blew it for the Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert was the reason why they lost that game. But when you are 6 seasons into the National Football League and you don't have a single playoff win under your belt, we start to look at you a little bit differently.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Let's stick in the AFC East, though, where we had another big outcome. No questions about the quarterback in this one. Josh Allen, absolutely just Josh Allen, as the Bills get the 27-24 win in a dynamic, incredible back-and-forth game. I just mentioned the questions about Herbert. I'm sure some people want to ask those questions about Trevor Lawrence, who continues to also have some playoff struggles. But this game wasn't about Trevor Lawrence to me. This was about Josh Allen going out and just being the best of what Josh Allen has to be for the Bills to win football games.
That was the difference in this game. Call it oversimplifying it, but that game was, look, one of these quarterbacks is really good. The other one of these quarterbacks is elite. There's a reason why any of us, you, me, any football fan in America would pick Josh Allen as the one quarterback in the National Football League that they would take with a game on the line, a playoff game in the line. Everybody would want Josh Allen with the ball in his hands. I mean, look, that fourth quarter was electric. It was exciting. It delivered. I picked this game as the game that I thought was going to be the most drunk. And the fourth quarter really was in the best possible way, the most beautiful possible way. But when it came down to it, when a play had to be made, Josh Allen, on the final possession of the fourth quarter, led a 9-play, 66-yard touchdown drive with in 2 minutes and 59 seconds with 4 minutes left on the clock. Mwah! Beautiful, expert. And then Trevor Lawrence, in his final possession of the game, throws a pick on the very first play. That's the difference. That is the difference between these two quarterbacks, and that is what makes the Buffalo Bills so dangerous. Even when Josh Allen doesn't get a whole lot of support around him, I have so many question marks about this receiving core. I have so many question marks about this defense. But when it came down to it, in that game, with the game on the line, I had no question marks about what the MVP was going to be able to do.
Well, and to that point, you think about what this moment meant for Buffalo. Josh Allen gets his first road playoff win. Sean McDermott gets his first road playoff win. As they pointed out on the broadcast, first road playoff win for Buffalo as a franchise since 1992. Like, just think about what all of this means for the Buffalo Bills franchise. And then what they did. They took out the second longest winning streak coming into this playoff thing. The Jags and the Texans both have the two longest. They take out the Jags, who were on an absolute heater coming into this game. They didn't turn the ball over the way that they could have against a problematic defense that creates a bunch of turnovers. They also took on the best run defense they're going to see. It's the number one run defense in the NFL. So I know right now everybody's going to look at the Bills and say, well, what's it mean against the Broncos? I'll remind you, from a run defense standpoint, the Bills just beat a run defense better than Denver has. And when you think about what that meant for this offense, like, we all know that this is all Josh Allen and Cook. That's it. Josh and Cook. That's all they got. And Cook was absolutely shut down in this game over and over and over again. So for Buffalo to find a way to win on the road against a hot football team that has an opportunistic defense and a great run defense where they couldn't even be the best of themselves, this is a big moment for the Bills. It does sort of speak to why I think most of us are sitting there saying, I don't really care what the number is next to their seed. I'm not going to bet against Josh Allen and the Bills in the playoffs, just given the fact how good they can be even in adverse situations, which they proved in this game.
Totally. And I think both things can be true and both things are true. That we looked at the Bills and their path to the Super Bowl having to go on the road. That's a really difficult uphill battle. And they go into Jacksonville against a red hot team with a quarterback that's playing as of late probably better than any other quarterback in the National Football League. And they're able to get a win. That's a massive, weight off of your shoulders. That is one massive box that is now checked by the Buffalo Bills. But let's not act like this is, we are now at the point where the Bills are just playing with house money. This is not for the Bills like, yay, you won a game. Good for you. Woohoo. Now at this point, we can all just have fun and enjoy the ride. No. You have a big weight lifted off your shoulders, and also there is still plenty of work to be done. The expectation for this Bills team is Super Bowl or bust, and it should be with that quarterback and this field.
Yeah, that's what gets curious. I came into this wondering after the game, all right, does this quiet some of the noise around Buffalo? And I don't know that it does. I think there's so much left in front of them about what it looks
should
like,
it?
right? Like, no, I mean, but no, it shouldn't. But at the same time, I do look at context, right? Like, they just take out the Jags, who obviously won 13 games this year. They take out the Jags in Jacksonville. Now they have to go to Denver. That to me is that's a gauntlet in this year's AFC. I know Denver and Bo Nix this is where we say, well, Josh Allen doesn't have to take on Mahomes, and he doesn't have to take on Joe Burrow, and he doesn't have to take on Lamar. Okay. But he does have to take on the number one seed on the road. And I get that the brands aren't the same from the quarterback situation, but over the course of this year, Denver has been a better team than Buffalo. It doesn't mean that it makes sense to all of us, but we are sort of sitting here saying, hey, Buffalo, you better go win this. Well, why? Denver's been better all year. Denver, they're the one seed for a reason. I'm just saying, I think I feel like we're already stacking the Josh better go out and get this now. They beat Jacksonville, got to beat Denver too. I don't know. Denver's a really damn good football team.
And I think this year we've all been challenged to rewire our brains about who is considered a contender, who's an elite team, who is favored or should be favored. And we just saw the odds right there. Buffalo and Denver both have the same odds to win the AFC. Wow. But it is on the road. It is in one of the most difficult places to play in the entire National Football League. It is one of the best defenses in the NFL this year. Do you think Buffalo can get it done? If they don't, we're going to be talking a whole lot about Josh Allen and this Bills team. Will he ever break through? Will he ever win a Super Bowl? We're going to be talking about Sean McDermott's job security. But on the other hand, can they do it? Can they beat the Broncos?
I think so. We'll figure it out. We got a few days. I'm gonna hedge my bet. We got a few days before we have to make official predictions. Look, we're both sort of falling in love here. All right. At this point, Philly fans losing their minds. The Niners advance in the wildest of ways. We'll tell you about it next. The 49ers went into Philly and took down the defending Super Bowl champions. They are moving on in these playoffs. And yet again, every single time you think they are down and out, they are living, eating, breathing Monty Python, merely a flesh wound. Every time they take on another injury, they're just fine. This 49ers team is a level of resilient, Caroline, that I don't know that there are words for. They lose George Kittle in this game, which you think would be reason enough with the torn Achilles that, frankly, they finally fold. I thought, this is going to be finally the straw that breaks Camel's back. And instead, Christian McCaffrey does Christian McCaffrey things. Kyle Shanahan dials up some trickery that nobody sees coming. And the 49ers get the 23-19 win over the Eagles. I don't know how the 49ers keep doing it, but no matter who's hurt, they just keep finding ways to win.
And this is one that I feel like we should have seen coming. Like, after this result, I was like, yep, duh, stupid. We should have seen this coming, right? Because this is what both of these teams have been doing all season long. The San Francisco 49ers all season long have just continued to find a way. I don't know how many Pro Bowlers the Niners have lost, at least for some period of time this season or the entirety of the season. Too many to count at this point, but they still find a way. And the Eagles, on the other hand, they continue to find a way to play the most boring brand of football possible. I think the most impressive thing to me about the San Francisco team, if you just want to look at Robert Saleh versus Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia, that 49ers defense against this Eagles offense. This Eagles offense has all of the pieces. It's like, somebody shows up to like a tennis lesson and they have the nicest racket and the coolest clothes and the brand new shoes. They have all the gear, all the stuff. And then on the other side, the 49ers don't have Nick Bosa, don't have Fred Warner, not just two of the best defensive players on that team, but two of the best defensive players in the National Football League. And they are able to totally and completely keep this Eagles offense in check without the fancy schmancy things. They came in with their shoes falling apart, with a racket, their dad's old racket that's been in the garage for the last 25 years, and they were able to take down a team that had all the shiny pieces, all the Saquon Barkleys, the A.J. Browns, the Devontae Smiths, the Jalen Hurts. And I think that is so incredibly impressive and speaks to this San Francisco coaching staff. We talked so much about X's and O's and Jimmys and Joes. Well, the 49ers keep losing their Jimmys and Joes, yet they still continue to find a way, and in the most epic fashion, too, whenever we see Juwan Jennings throwing a touchdown pass.
Yeah, I mean, look, as Jordan Schultz tweeted out, no Fred Warner, no Nick Bosa, no George Kittle, no Mikael Williams, no Ricky Pearsall, no Brandon Ayuk, fifth and sixth string linebackers, among other adversity. The 49ers just keep finding a way, and that's fact.
They do.
They just keep finding a way. Now, there's another side to this. The other side of this is the Eagles and their meltdown, and frankly, a lot's already being talked about on social media about what all this means. Not the least of this was Nick Sirianni, who, frankly, we saw on the sidelines in yet another heated argument with A.J. Brown. Big Dom having to get in the middle of them, separate them on the sidelines. All right, Caroline, after all the drama yet again, is this the last time we see A.J. Brown in an Eagles jersey to you?
I think so. I don't know how you can sell A.J. Brown to the Eagles moving forward. And it's not just the playoff game, but I think the playoff game was enough. All season long, really going back the past couple of years, A.J. Brown has been a major pain in the butt. But the difference was in previous seasons in the Super Bowl run, A.J. Brown on the field produced way more, kind of justified for any of the extracurriculars that might happen off the field. This year, not so much. I counted at least 2, if not 3 drop passes in some of the most critical moments in the game last night. And then you see him fighting on the sidelines, getting in a screaming match with his head coach, Nick Sirianni, on the sidelines. So you are a pain in the butt off the field. You're a distraction on the sideline, and you're not producing on the field. What am I paying you $32 million for? What are you the 7th highest paid wide receiver in the National Football League for? I know what A.J. Brown is capable of and how just terrifying and dangerous he can be in this offense. But at this point, it just feels like it's run its course a little bit. He's too expensive to be this big of a problem.
I need Debbie Downer theme music. You are right. Everything you just said is 1,000% accurate. But this is where I ruin everybody's fun. All right, so I believe that A.J. Brown should be with another team. I struggle to find the how. And look, I'll go to Over the Cap right now where they tell me, overthecap.com tells me that if A.J. Brown were cut pre-June 1st, which he wouldn't be, his cap number goes from $23 million right now to $72 million dead cap hit. That ain't going to happen. In fact, if they cut him post-June 1st, which means you can allocate the number over multiple years, his salary cap hit would be $45 million in dead cap. So an extra $22 million to cut him. If they trade him before June 1st, so if they trade him before the draft, it costs them an additional $20 million against the cap in dead cap money. So I hear you that A.J. Brown with the Eagles next year doesn't make any sense. And frankly, I keep looking at a team like the Patriots and Vrabel, who we know has a great relationship with A.J. Brown, and thinking, God, this only makes too much sense. Find a way to get A.J. Brown to the Patriots. But the only real way that you can do that is if you were to trade him after June 1st. And if you trade him after June 1st, a summer trade of a blockbuster player rarely happens because whatever you're getting in return isn't going to be a usable piece for you until, like, if you're getting draft picks, you got a whole year before you can use them. Plus, at that point, rosters have been built. Money's been spent. It's hard to trade a $20 million wide receiver in the middle of summer. So I think this is one of those moments where everybody's right. A.J. Brown shouldn't be a Philadelphia Eagle next year. But then I push my glasses up like the absolute nerd that I am, and I come in and say, but wait, guys, actually, it's really hard to trade him. It's hard to trade him, Caroline. So I'm with you. It should be his last game. But I think looking at the numbers, Howie Roseman is much more likely to have to look inside the organization and figure out how to fix whatever else is making A.J. Brown angry instead of simply looking at getting rid of the player.
They're not going to cut him. Just want to put that out there. It would be stupid. That's dumb. They can't do that financially. you're not going to just cut a guy like A.J. Brown and get zero assets in return. Like, I mean, everyone is smarter than that, especially Howie Roseman. So they're not going to cut him. I think it would be a post-June 1st trade. We've seen this before. Sure, we don't see total and complete blockbuster trades happening in the middle of training camp, but it wouldn't be the first time that this has ever happened. I remember talking about a DeAndre Hopkins trade to the Tennessee Titans deep into July. So is it ideal? No, it's not. But also, you bring up Mike Vrabel. A.J. Brown has familiarity with Mike Vrabel and the offense that they want to run. You don't think a team like, I don't know, maybe the Buffalo Bills would be interested in adding it to their weapons and their arsenal in the receiving core? 1,000%. And the Eagles might say, we can't trade him until after June 1st. And my response would be like, okay, that's fine if we get a talent like A.J. Brown. Because with all of this, with all of the frustrations and the friction that exists in Philadelphia, A.J. Brown is still one of the most talented wide receivers in the National Football League. I think even with everything that we've seen with A.J., the reading the book on the sidelines and the tweets and the fighting with Nick Sirianni on the sideline, there are a lot of coaches and general managers out there that'll say, that's fine, we can work with that. Maybe he just needs a fresh start. We can fix him. So yes, with the contract that huge, it's not the most simple thing in the world, but I do think that there will be teams out there that are willing to kind of do a little bit of gymnastics in order to make A.J. Brown work. What would you get in return for A.J. Brown? 2 firsts?
Oh, I wouldn't give 2 firsts for him anymore. I mean,
a first and
it's not. I give a first and something. Yeah, like a late first and something. You know, again, going back to the Patriots. Like if I'm the Patriots and I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, you know, if the Patriots go, let's say, to the Super Bowl and they have a bottom 2 pick in the draft, yeah, I'd give that to A.J. Brown all day, every day, especially because Mike Vrabel knows him. I think that's the biggest thing. When you make an acquisition like this, it's about the devil you know versus the devil you don't. Like everybody can think they understand what it's like to have a guy in the locker room. It's different when you actually know. Mike Vrabel knows what it's like to have A.J. Brown in the locker room every day, knows how to get through to him as a man and as a player. Like I think if I'm the Patriots, I'd be willing to pay a little bit more if I'm the Patriots than, let's say, some other random team, Green Bay, whatever, just sitting around that wants to acquire a wide receiver. I'm just making a team up. I'd be willing to pay a little bit more if I'm the Patriots because I know exactly what I'm getting into. I'd hedge that bet a little bit if I was a team not named the Patriots, and I may not have as much of an idea of what AJ will do to my locker room.
Right. And I think that's an important thing that would have to be discussed with A.J. Brown is it worth it? Is the on-the-field product going to be worth whatever extracurriculars might exist there? A.J. Brown is an elite talent in this league, 100%. How much of what we're talking about now, exactly what we're seeing, the fighting on the sideline with Nick Sirianni, how much is that's just who A.J. Brown is, and how much is that A.J. Brown's just fed up with everything in Philadelphia? Because I don't blame A.J. Brown for being fed up with everything that's going on in Philadelphia. I thought this Philly offense this season was a crime against football and humanity. A.J. Brown is the kind of guy that has the ego, and I don't say that in a bad way because I think wide receivers have to have a certain level of ego, have to have a certain level of razzle-dazzle that I'm better than you, I can beat you on any given snap, and A.J. Brown is such a competitor that he wants to be able to get the football and wants to be a contributing factor to this offense. So I do understand his frustrations, but it hasn't delivered and it hasn't come to fruition in the biggest moments, and we saw that on full display against the Niners.
Well, there's one thing that is certain. There's no way Philly just runs back whatever this year was because their offense was broken. Dan Orlovsky has smartly pointed out that last drive was 10-play. It was a 10-play drive where they ran the same play 4 times. So there is something absolutely broken with the entire offense for Philly, and they're going to have to get it figured out. Our notifications are on just like yours are to see if the bat phone rings at some point, what Shefty tells us is coming next for Philadelphia. All right, we'll keep breaking it down. Safe? What's happening with things? Is it? I don't think this is, again, me being my logical guy. I don't think you can fire a coach a year removed from a Super Bowl that just went to the playoffs again. I think Sirianni's safe. I think they're going to make wholesale changes on the offense. What do you think?
I think Nick Sirianni's safe. Kevin Patullo has to be gone. Like I'm shocked that we haven't gotten that yet. I wouldn't be surprised if we get that in the next 5 minutes. Kevin Patullo has to be gone. I think Sirianni is safe, but I have some big question marks about Sirianni moving forward.
Yeah, and I do think part of it, like I hear you, Patullo is like the whipping child for all of us because this offense has been tragically bad. But Sirianni's expertise is also offense. So my thing is like
he's that coach.
And we've spent the whole year screaming about what's wrong in Philadelphia. I mean, over and over and over again. We see it. If we see it, Sirianni sees it. My thing is like, why'd we wait to this point to try and fix it? Why are we here, even if we believe that it's an offensive coordinator issue? When your head coach is an offensive specialist, he should see it and have suggestions for fixes long before we get to January when you're no longer playing football. So I have a hard time. I agree with you. Patullo, I think I'd be shocked if he's not gone by the end of our show. But above and beyond that, I'm really curious to see what the organization says about Sirianni basically standing there and watching the Titanic sink through the course of the season, because that's what it feels like they did in Philly. We'll keep breaking it down. We got to get to some of the head coaching news out there. We're trying to figure out if Harbaugh is actually headed to the Cleveland Browns. That's right. There are reports out there. We'll ask an expert. We'll do that next on Yahoo Sports Daily. There is real and mutual interest between John Harbaugh and the Cleveland Browns. That, according to John Jones, ESPN Cleveland, tweets that out. So we'll get some thoughts on that now from one of the best in the business, just one of the nicest guys I know, Andrew Hawkins. Hawk, hanging out with us. Hawk, what's up, buddy, man? Appreciate your time this morning. Okay, so you know the Browns better than anybody, obviously. Your life story should be a movie. I'm sure it will be. Here's the thing. We got Harbaugh to the Browns. You hear that, you say what, good sir?
I mean, I think it'd be a slam dunk. I think for the Browns, just where they are as an organization, like, they need new juice. Even Kevin Stefanski, like, he should be a serious candidate for a lot of places, but that's kind of the NFL. You have to find the right fit. And I think when you look at what John Harbaugh brings to the table, he's like a true CEO coach, right? Like, and he's going to be best for organizations that are looking for stabilization. That's what he provided to the Baltimore Ravens. And I think it was even a tough decision for them to move on from him for that reason, because he is such a staple. He is such a leader, and he's able to kind of galvanize the entirety of the organization. And the Browns desperately need that. For the Baltimore Ravens, it's like, hey, we're trying to win a Super Bowl. And it feels like we'd be closer without you than we are with you. And I think for the Browns, it's the opposite. If you give them stabilization, if you give them the ability to compete for the playoffs year in and year out, as John Harbaugh did with the Ravens, I mean, that's a slam dunk home run, every other cliche that you can think of.
So let's stick on the subject of the Cleveland Browns' next head coach. It was reported that Mike McDaniel will also interview with Cleveland. That interview is happening today. Does he make more sense to you to be the Browns' next head coach?
I think he makes sense in the way that the Browns are currently constructed, right? I think as a organizational structure, with the people that they have in place, from Andrew Berry and the things that I know have shown to be important for the Cleveland Browns, I think Mike McDaniel makes a lot of sense because not only has he been a part of that culture before, so he kind of understands the stakes a little bit. I think it's a great case scenario for him where they're wanting their head coach to be the offensive play caller or to be a coordinator. They want you to shore up one side of the ball. And as it pertains to offensive minds, and I've said this for years, there is nobody that I respect more than Mike McDaniel. A few I can say as much, but absolutely nobody more. And so I think you get a home run because you get a little bit of the 2-for-1, where I think actually for Mike, it probably bodes well for him in that kind of an opportunity.
You also mentioned earlier Kevin Stefanski, that he's a great coach. He's going to get interviews. He's going to be, a very highly touted coach in this cycle, but his time just kind of ran out in Cleveland. From your perspective, why did the team, the organization, the locker room just kind of stop responding to Kevin Stefanski?
I can't speak to what it's like in the locker room with Kevin Stefanski. I can just go off of what I see when I'm around, or what we kind of all have access to as far as just his demeanor and who he is. I think he's a fine coach. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a smart coach. I think he's climbed the ranks, and that's not easy to do in the league. I think for the Browns and for what his tenure there, which obviously we've read all the headlines, seen all the turmoil, different years, different quarterbacks come through there, different, whatever you want to call it. I don't feel like he was the kind of coach to kind of grab the reins when the team probably needed it. I think he is a soft-spoken guy. I think he is, stoic at moments, but I think ultimately you can't remember one soundbite from Kevin Stefanski, whether in a press conference, whether on a sideline, whether in a behind the scenes that they do so much of in Cleveland, where it's like, oh, well, damn, he is charging this team to the right place. And again, that's not everybody's style. That's not Tony Dungy's style either, but it worked if given the right scenario, right players, right team, right time. And I just felt like for Kevin, there were moments where they needed that, and that just wasn't his style.
All right, then I'm going to make you the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns. I'm Andrew Berry in this situation. I call Hawk today. I say, Hawk, congratulations. You get the job. My question for you is a simple one. You've got Shedeur. Do you have your starting quarterback?
Ooh, out the gate, day one of the job. Can I get a check clear first, Fitzy? Is that okay? Before you start putting me on the spot like this.
We'll let you get
do
paid
I have the quarterback? Here's what I think. Here's my thing on Shedeur. I think Shedeur competes to be a starter. I think if there is a quarterback in the draft you fall in love with in the first round that you have access to get, I do not think he's done enough to pass that up. That does not mean that that's going to be the scenario. Just looking at the quarterbacks this year, I haven't gone deep into my analysis bag yet, but outside of Fernando Mendoza, you could probably get a steal, depending on, Chambliss, if he's around, don't know if he will be. Moore has had ups and downs as well. So if you don't have a quarterback you are in love with, Shedeur could absolutely be your starter. Now, there are things Shedeur has to get better at. He has to mature it. And in the NFL, it's not a matter of if he can or he can't. It's will he get the opportunity to? Because that's not how the NFL works, right? Like this isn't college. We're not building you up. And even now, college is not that way. But we're not giving you multiple years to figure this thing out. But the things that, in my opinion, that Shedeur brings to the table are the ones that you can't really teach. Where he has to be a little better is operationally. Being able to make that decision of when to take what's given to you versus always trying to get the play, always trying to create more time, sometimes at the detriment of your offense, at the detriment of your team, and at the detriment of your performance, retreating in the pocket, aimlessly running around, only to make a bad decision by throwing across your body. But the thing of that special about him is when the moments get thick, Shedeur is at his best. You can't teach that. Shedeur does not back down from good defenses, good players. He is a risk taker. You can't teach that because the NFL is a scary place, especially for quarterbacks. They do everything they can to get the ball out of their hands as fast as they can. They do whatever is safe as possible, anything to circumvent criticism, circumvent losing your status, circumvent, people make it a definitive choice that you are not a guy. Shedeur doesn't have any of that problem. So the other piece of it is on him. The other piece of it is in his offseason training, in his film study. How much time can you put in there to get better? Because if he can do that, he absolutely can be a starting quarterback. But there's a lot of big ifs in that.
All right, so let me keep trying to pin you in here, Hawk. That's a good thing we're friends. So hear me out. Harbaugh's coming from a two-time MVP. Why in the hell would somebody go from a two-time MVP to a franchise where you just told me, like, can compete, and if he's not the guy, maybe we get a guy. Like, there's no clear, true path to knowing you have a quarterback in Cleveland. Why would Harbaugh go from having the absolute best of the best at the position to having a maybe at the position?
Yeah, because number one, Harbaugh's not going anywhere where everything isn't in his favor. He's John Harbaugh. He's not some hot offensive coordinator in the league looking for his first job and scared he's going to get fired in year 1 or 2 because his quarterback doesn't play well. And then the second part is you're a Hall of Fame coach. Either you're a good coach or you're not. If the situation is right for you, you go in there and fix it. That's what good coaches do. It's not that you're trying to set the table for things to be as easy as possible. Of course, we all want good quarterbacks, right? The Browns have won a good quarterback for 30, 40 years, but they have not been able to find one or they haven't been able to set the environment to a place where those quarterbacks can thrive. So for John Harbaugh, this is what you're special at. You are not an offensive guru. You're not a defensive guru. You are a guy that builds organizations, and also you have a high IQ of people and players and know what they need and know what makes them good and what makes them tick. So you can build the culture of players there on top of the organization to say, hey, I'm going to build this team in place the way that I want it. So for me, is that too much of a project for John Harbaugh at the moment? Maybe. But I think it will come down to, okay, who is going to give him the power that he's looking for? Who's going to give him, enough of the other things that allow him to do his job the way that he thinks he can, as opposed to, hey, give me the best quarterback I can get. Yeah, obviously, if you get, if you could have another Lamar Jackson out there, awesome. Because to be honest, if Lamar Jackson hadn't gone to the Ravens, he wouldn't have been the Ravens coach 8 years ago, right? So yes, it makes it easier. But I think in this world of like the things that I feel like are important to John Harbaugh in this place in his career, that's going to be a part of it. But I don't think it'll be the end all be all of like, hey, either you have a quarterback or not, or I'm not coming.
Well said. Let's stick in the AFC North, but move to Cincinnati. And the Bengals have missed the playoffs the last 2 years, but they are retaining their head coach, Zach Taylor. Do you agree with that?
I can't say if I agree with it. I know that it's the way that the Bengals have always done things. Like, they do not like to pay a coach to not do a job. That is not their style, right? And so they're going to give him every chance because that's just who they are. Like, and the players are the same way. So when you're going into free agency as a Bengal, you just know that they're going to offer you less money. And we've seen it play up many, many times, year in and year out, with the Bengals players and the front office about where they are as far as what they think their value is and not. It will always be an offseason topic in Cincinnati to the end of time because how they look at things, and they're no different with their coaches. How we view you in this moment is how we view you. The minus to that is we'll probably pay you less than everybody else right now. But in a year or two, when that other team's GM gets fired and or the fans and the media aren't as high on you in 3 years as they were at the moment, or in a year from now, and where everyone else is going to cut you and your guarantees will be your guarantees, that's not how the Bengals operate. How we value you right now is how we're going to value you pretty much to the end of the contract. And they get burned by that a lot of times, and sometimes it's on the other end. So for Zach Taylor, I think he's benefiting at the moment from that strategy from the Bengals of like, hey, we signed this deal for this many years. We view you. We're going to give you every opportunity to be what we already thought because we have our convictions the moment we do that signing. So for players, it's like you'll see less money in the headline, but you'll make more money because you're probably going to see the end of this deal.
All right, Hawk, there's one thing that we can all agree on. Wide receivers are the worst, right? And so A.J. Brown out there. A.J. Brown out there on the sidelines having a Sirianni moment. As a former NFL wide receiver, how do you fix what's happening with A.J. Brown and the Eagles?
I mean, I don't know if you fix anything, man. I think it's time, bro. I don't know. I just feel like I've said this multiple times. You know, it's hard to win in the NFL. It's hard to get open in the NFL. It's hard to win Super Bowls in the NFL. It's hard to duplicate success the way the Eagles had a year ago in the NFL. There's just way too many damn distractions. And I mean, and that's not, you know, it could be absolutely Sirianni's fault. He could be talking to the OC and being like, to hell with him, don't give him that many targets. Throw it to Devontae Smith instead. Let's build a play around it. It could be AJ's fault, where he's a diva and he only wants the ball his way. But the reality is AJ is a top 5 talented wide receiver. You are paying him as such. And for AJ, no one cares about the quote unquote ability. Like, what do your numbers say? Because the next contract you get is going to be predicated off of what the numbers say. AJ probably understands that. Yes, it is not focusing solely on the Super Bowl, but as players, you got to be able to have your cake and eat it too. That's just the reality of it. Like, I want to win, absolutely, but I also want to maximize my value in my profession. And if the Eagles aren't utilizing you like the top 5 receiver we're paying you like, it doesn't make sense for them, and it also doesn't make sense for you. And then also you throw into that now that you're not winning, now you got sideline spats, now you have a new quote or a new article written every week. Who is this good for? It is time. Do not stay together for the children. It's time to go.
Oh, man. You guys can follow him on Twitter, X, the best handle in all the world. It's just at Hawk. You can watch him across the ESPN. Brother, thanks so much for the time this morning. I always appreciate you. Good to see your face. Say hey to the family. Appreciate you hanging out with us.
Good to see you too, Fitz. Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Andrew Hawkins doing God's work. All right, coming up next, we're going to figure out what exactly to make of a wild escape for the Rams in Carolina. Coming up next. If Matthew Stafford wins another Super Bowl, I think it's time to start putting him in that top 5 quarterbacks of all time conversation, according to Matt Leinart. Matt Leinart, congratulations. You just made my top 5. I've got a top 5 list of guys I'd really love to party with them. By party, I mean edibles galore. I just learned that Leinart and I need to party together because I'm just going to say it clearly, Caroline, there is no world in my mind. There is no bricks I can stack. There is no wall I can make. There is no I can't make a vision board that gets Matt Stafford to a top 5 quarterback of all time. Come on.
He's smoking on that bush push kush. Whatever he's smoking on is something that I might be interested in. And look, I think that this season has probably rewritten or supplemented at least Matthew Stafford's legacy and his resume. If Matthew Stafford wins an MVP and gets to and or wins a Super Bowl, we will look at Matthew Stafford much differently than just the guy that won one Super Bowl but could never really break through in Detroit. I have been on the record several times on this show saying that I do believe that Matthew Stafford should be the MVP this season. But top 5 all time, Fitz, if you and I both started expansion NFL teams, the Fightin' Fitzes and the Fancy Fentons, and we had a quarterback draft, how long would it take us to get to Matthew Stafford right now? Because I would take Patrick Mahomes over Matthew Stafford, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. Would anyone take Drake May over Matthew Stafford right now? I wouldn't. But I don't think it's the craziest argument to make. So if Matthew Stafford is the 5th best quarterback in the National Football League right now, how can I say he's top 5 all time?
It's such a prisoner of the moment. Your conversation, look, this isn't about not loving Matthew Stafford. It's just like I pulled up when we saw this quote yesterday. I pulled up a bunch of the top 10 listings of quarterbacks all time, and there was one from Fox Sports last year that had Brady, Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes, John Elway as your top 5. Well, Matt Stafford winning a Super Bowl isn't suddenly going to put him above any of those names to me. Also, Aaron Rodgers, Terry Bradshaw, a little before my time, but fine. Brett Favre, Drew Brees, Dan Marino. That's their top 10 list. And I'm only saying that because this is what we do all the time when we say, oh, this guy needs to be in the Hall of Fame, or this guy should be on this list. There's no way. Who are we taking off? And that's where, to your point, if we look at it, there's a big difference between respecting the greatness of somebody's career, and I think that's important to do. Matt Stafford has absolutely had a kick-ass career, and he's having a kick-ass year, and I love watching every second of it. But to suddenly put him in the top 5 all-time conversation is just, it's so dismissive of what it felt like walking into a season 20 years ago when you sat there and said, man, we got to take on Peyton Manning. Oh, we got to take on Tom Brady. I mean, I'm the old guy in the room, so I remember what it was like when it was a given that Joe Montana and then Steve Young, frankly, were going to whoop your butt as 49ers quarterbacks. There's just a different level of conversation, and we need to understand, not everything has to be best ever. Unfortunately, it's just, I feel like this is society now. You have a sip of coffee. It can't be like, that's really good coffee. That has to be the best coffee you've ever had, and that's what we're doing with the quarterback conversation to me. So I think that Matt Stafford has been absolutely electric, but I also think we need to pump our brakes. That being said, I cannot praise enough of Matt Stafford and the way he played at the end of that game against Carolina. There was 100%. This team has been here. This team knows what to do. Stafford's winning touchdown throw was a perfect throw to a perfect catch to a perfect play from a perfect call. This was absolutely a clinic at the end of the game for a team that really reminded us, hey, we've been here. We know how to win in every situation.
I mean, I think Matthew Stafford's the MVP this year. We saw that on full display against Carolina. Even when Matthew Stafford had his finger banged up, he was able to step up in the biggest moments. I think he's the MVP this season. It is not me being a hater or calling Matthew Stafford a bum just because I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback in the history of the National Football League. We are so spoiled in seeing history be made every single season in sports and in the NFL. Then we went from one quote-unquote GOAT in Tom Brady straight into another one in the next generation in Patrick Mahomes, who looks like he will go down as one of the greatest to ever play this sport and play that position. We are so lucky to be able to see record-breaking and legacy-level performances on any given week in the National Football League. That I think, to your point, we become obsessed with making everything like that. Just because Matthew Stafford, just because I don't view Matthew Stafford as a top 5 quarterback of all time in the National Football. Let's talk about that for a second. That's incredibly lofty. It's kind of hyperbolic. Just because I don't think he is that does not mean that Matthew Stafford isn't deserving of being viewed as one of the greatest to wear a Rams uniform, deserving of being MVP this season, and I think we can have a Hall of Fame conversation. I wasn't totally convinced that Matthew Stafford was a Hall of Famer going into this season. After this season, I think, especially if he wins MVP and a Super Bowl, yes, he has a Hall of Fame resume, but can't that be enough? Can't you be a Hall of Fame level quarterback and that be good enough? Can't we all just appreciate that for what it is?
Well, and that, I mean, this is the way we talk about quarterbacks, right? Because to your point, I found myself having a conversation with one of our mutual friends on Saturday about Bryce Young. And the question was, well, is Bryce Young really elite? And the funny thing is, as a society,
Doesn't
when we
have to
cover
be elite.
quarterbacks, right, as a society, we either want guys to be elite or they suck. And like, we need a different word for everything that falls in the middle. Like, there is nothing wrong with saying, hey, I think the Panthers have found a quarterback that they can win a lot of football games with. Is he some world beater that's going to take everybody by storm and absolutely destroy the rest of the NFC for the next 20 years? No. Can they win some football games with him? So far, sure looks like it. But that doesn't seem to be the analysis everybody wants. And then if you turn around, even to this point with Stafford, if I say, well, I don't think he's top 5 all time, when this gets clipped off, inevitably people are going to say I'm a Stafford hater, even though I have just put effusive praise all over Matt Stafford for the better part of the last 6 minutes. So, like, this is the damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, I think we lose our ability to have accurate analysis of anything when we make it all or nothing. There is no world where a quarterback either has to be elite or he's trash and you throw him away. That doesn't exist. So I think Matt Stafford is absolutely having an incredible year. And I think he's going to be really deserving of the MVP should he win it. And if he wins the Super Bowl, I think that's a beautiful moment. I also think Bryce Young showed enough in this season and his loss at Carolina that if you're a Panthers fan, you can be pretty excited. It doesn't mean that Matt Stafford's top 5 all time. And it doesn't mean that Bryce Young's the top 5 of the league right now. It doesn't mean that any of those questions are answered, Caroline. It's just there has to be some middle ground on quarterback conversation.
I'm with you 100%. But with that being said, what more can Matthew Stafford do to cement his legacy this season? Does he have the most on the line in terms of legacy making?
No, that's Josh. Like, look, this year, unfortunately, the dumbest thing we're going to do this year is if Josh Allen doesn't win a Super Bowl, people are going to turn that into, man, couldn't even win it when Mahomes and Jackson weren't in it. Like, I think that I am so hopeful. I'm not a Bills fan. I don't care. I'm a Raiders fan. I so hope that we get Josh Allen in the Super Bowl just to prevent the stupidity that will come if we don't. And that's where I am. Like, I'm resigned to it. I give up. I believe that we are going to be stupid in our analysis of Josh Allen if he doesn't get to a Super Bowl. So, my God, I need him to get there, but I think he has the most on the line. What do you think?
I think it's Stafford because Josh Allen, I hope, we all as football fans, I hope that we have the lovely privilege of getting to watch Josh Allen play this sport in this position for the next 10 plus years. Josh Allen is in that window of his career that Josh Allen will be back next year and the year after that and the year after that. I hope, fingers crossed, for his sake and ours. I don't know what Matthew Stafford's future looks like. Does Matthew Stafford, if the Rams win the Super Bowl this year, does Matthew Stafford look around and say, you know what, I want to go out on a high note and I'm going to retire after this season? Maybe. He's 37 years old. His days are numbered in this league. Matthew Stafford has a whole lot of football behind him, much more than he has in front of him. Matthew Stafford doesn't have very many opportunities to change what the lasting legacy will be or what our final impressions of Matthew Stafford will be. And maybe there's a really large portion of football fans across America that already just kind of feel like they know who Matthew Stafford is and their mind isn't going to be changed. I don't think that's necessarily fair, but I think it is Matthew Stafford for the position that he is and the place that he is in his career.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens the rest of this postseason. In the meantime, the rest of this show is about to get crazy. Yahoo Sports Daily becomes Yahoo Sports Debate. Texans, Steelers. We're going to bring 2 experts on, and we're going to figure out who wins this matchup coming up next. It is never too early to pop your popcorn because Yahoo Sports Daily becomes Yahoo Sports Debate. It's a new series we've been doing through the playoffs where we have experts come in from different sides and they debate the matchup. The Steelers host the Texans tonight. The matchup inside the matchup features the two people you see on screen right now. Eddie Meisenet, we know him. He's friend of the show, sports editor at Cron.com in Houston, knows the Texans inside and out. Welcome back to the program. And then Urinating Tree, a.k.a. Steve, runs a wildly popular Urinating Tree YouTube channel. Steelers fans, you know him well. Over 630,000 subscribers. Congratulations to that. Caroline, tell the boys what we are up against.
Yeah, no more playing nice, no more pleasantries, no more manners, because this is a debate. Both these guys cover these teams. They know these teams and the ins and outs. So we will debate this matchup that we have tonight on Monday Night Football. So, Eddie, I will start with you. Our very first question of the debate, Steve, you will follow. First question. All about recent suffering for both of these two fan bases. So, Eddie, why do the Houston Texans fans deserve this win more?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is all about an opportunity to give. I'm gonna 8 Mile this situation because to me, like the Texans don't really, from a deserve standpoint, like this is all about the pain of Pittsburgh and everything that they've suffered and will likely suffer in the near future. I mean, this is a storied franchise that, you know, they haven't won a championship in however many years, you know, and we don't have to talk about how good the Texans defense is. We don't have to talk about how good these young players, these future Hall of Famers on this roster, guys who look like me and Joe Green wearing the 75, like my boy Tree got on. You know what I'm saying? We got Derek Stingley that looks like Rod Woodson back in the day, Mel Blount back in the day. You know, we have those stalwart pieces on the roster. My call out is this. The Steelers got a coach that might be done at the end of the season. They got a quarterback that might be done at the end of the season. They've got all these players, Jalen Ramsey, all these aging players who might be done on the team at the end of the season. And then we just heard out in McKeesport that, they're going to be extending the time for kids to be able to go to school tomorrow by like 2 hours because, they might need more time to grieve before, the end of a loss on Monday night. So, I think that this is really about how can we make this nice and easy, nice and smooth for Steelers fans, like that we love and appreciate everything they've done for the league. But this is going to be a put down session. And so this is why we need this to go the way it goes for the Texans. Just take care of business, nice and smooth, put everybody out of their misery and call it at the end of the day. Everybody can go home happy.
I think the thing with the Steelers and why we technically more or less deserve to, or should I say, hopefully should. I mean, most of the thing is there's been a lot of frustration in the fan base. You haven't won a playoff game in nearly a decade. You've lost some really embarrassing games, getting blown out repeatedly. Against the Bills earlier this year, the fan base broke. You had a situation where they were actively booing the team, fire Tomlin chants. They booed Renegade, which Renegade is the big, thing for Steelers, and especially with their defense. They started booing that. Fans were laughing during that. So you figure that was kind of like a rock bottom for the team. Technically, they shouldn't be here right now because the reality is Tyler Loop should have made that field goal. But the reality is that's a very dangerous team heading into the playoffs. It's a house money situation. You don't really have many expectations. You have a situation where this could be the last ride for Tomlin. It could be the last ride for Aaron Rodgers. It could be the last ride for Cameron Hayward. There are rumors going on about him too. So you have a very aging team. You have a lot of former Pro Bowlers, and it's a boom-bust team if you really think about it, because the thing is, it's a combination of you have a lot of guys that are hunting for another ring. You have guys that haven't even tasted a ring. TJ Watt hasn't won a playoff game in his career. Cameron Hayward has never sniffed a Super Bowl. You have Aaron Rodgers, who hasn't tasted a Super Bowl in 15 years. He beat the Steelers. So it's a situation where it's, as I said, there's a lot of strange things that can happen in the playoffs. Nobody really expected the 49ers to beat the Eagles. So I think there's a pretty even chance. I think this game's more or less a coin flip. And if the Texans more or less lose, I think it's like there's kind of a magic in the air because the Steelers haven't lost a Monday Night Football game since 1991. They have a 23-game winning streak on the line.
All right, so then let's get into these cities then, gentlemen. Steve, I'll start with you. Tree, we'll start with you. All right, what's the better overall sports town, Pittsburgh or Houston? Come on now.
Oh, I mean, it's got to be Pittsburgh. Come on. I mean, you got the
Messy.
Steel City, 7. You have the six rings. Pens have won 5 Stanley Cups. I mean, the Pirates are kind of there. I mean, they were good a couple years ago, but yeah, they're just there. We hope they do okay, but not really. But at the same time, with Houston, you have a lot of turmoil, a lot of pain. You look back to the early '90s Oilers teams, the chaos, the tragedy that happened there, the choke. They also had the situation with Bud Adams. They don't have the Rockets. They've been kind of hit or miss. The '90s really good, but then you have the pain of the late 2010s runs where they just couldn't get over the hump. And then baseball, the trash cans. And there's always that stench that unfortunately is going to be there. So that's why I believe Pittsburgh's a better sports town. I'm sorry, I'm biased, but forgive me. We have towels. Let's go.
It's all good.
Towels.
It's all good. Look, man, bang those trash cans, man. Look, bang the trash cans. We'll bang them a few more times if we got to. Bring the trash cans, bring the title ring back to Houston for the Astros. Look, I think this is actually a really interesting question because Houston's in such a fascinating position at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
The Rockets got Kevin Durant. Everybody is up in arms about KD being in H-Town, being back in Texas, UT Austin alum.
Yeah.
The Comets are coming back to Houston after negotiating the sale rights with the WNBA to have the Connecticut Sun come to Houston. And then obviously the history of the Oilers, the Love You Blue Oilers, now the Texans. And look, say what you want about the Texans. They are 2-time defending AFC South champions. Yes, Jacksonville went down over the weekend, but Houston has owned the division for the last couple of years. And that's before we even go to look at some of the college stuff with the city. The Houston Cougars were in the Final Four and the national championship last year. I think they've got the best point guard in America in Kingston Flemings, and UH, I think, will be very likely contending for a national championship in 2026 as well. And then shout out to Willie Fritz and them boys as well with the Houston Cougars football team. So, I think you look at it in totality, you think about big names, you think about superstars. The city of Houston has always had it. Nola Ryan, Hakeem Olajuwon, Earl Campbell, guys like that. And I think that the cool thing is you can look at the city of Houston now, and they've got Hunter Brown, they've got Kevin Durant, Amen Thompson, CJ Stroud, Will Anderson. Like, they've got a foundation now that you want to get on this bandwagon before it gets really rolling, because in the next 5 to 10 years, I think Houston's going to be in prime position.
All right, we're being too nice. Let's shake things up a bit. I'll see if I can maybe stir the pot a little bit. Eddie, we will start with you with this next question. You need to win just one game, lose and go home, win in advance. Who would you rather have as your quarterback? Aaron Rodgers or CJ Stroud?
You know what? Let's be honest. I think I'd rather have Aaron Rodgers right now. And that might be, look, I might not be able to go back
behind
downtown.
enemy lines.
I might not be able to go to NRG. But in a one-game scenario, now if they have to face the Houston Texans, facing the Houston Texans defense, obviously this is a conundrum of sorts. But Stroud needs to have a big game in a big situation. I think most Houstonians would hold his feet to the fire in regards to that. And Aaron Rodgers, I think he's got the resume that says, like, hey, we know he can still probably do it one time. So if it's one game for my life, that's a challenging pick. And yeah, I'm probably about to get banned from NRG for a little bit. But I as of right now, I would begrudgingly, like, I don't feel good about either choice, if I'm being honest. But I would begrudgingly take Rodgers in this circumstance.
I would say Rodgers as well. I think they've both been very up and down quarterbacks. Rodgers has had a lot of inconsistency this year, but he's 42. I mean, it's just usually it's kind of in the twilight of that career. But the thing with CJ Stroud, he has a lot of talent. I love him as a player. He's very Jekyll and Hyde in terms of how he is as a quarterback. Look at the game against the Chargers, for example. Skies 2 deep balls to Nico Collins for touchdowns. And then he throws some really bad picks, especially near half, that nearly cost points if Cameron Dicker didn't shank a really easy field goal. So I think there's a real issue that can really be exploited there. And in terms of the Texans defense, I have faith in Rodgers for one reason. Against the Vikings this year, Brian Flores' defense is relentless. They have a swarm. They spam blitzes left and right. I know the Texans are more or less a conventional style. They don't really change up their scheme per se. But with the quick game, Aaron Rodgers was able to dissect that really fast. And I think that's going to be the key for Rodgers moving forward. And I know he does have that playoff record. He's been throwing a lot of clutch plays, even in times when his defense let him down. I think it's a situation there where you have to go with the track record and the tenure over the potential upside in the CJ Stroud. So in that case, I would choose Aaron Rodgers too.
All right, Tree, then let's go with this one. Better Watt, TJ or JJ?
Woo! Dude, it has to be TJ. Has to be TJ. I mean, with how many forced fumbles that man has forced over the years, that man is going to Canton. That man, JJ is a fantastic player, but TJ Watt has the ability to change a game on a whim. That man wins the Steelers at least 3 games a year. Not much this year, but in the past, especially with a forced fumble, sack, deflection at the line, interception when you need it, TJ Watt's right there. Him and Cam Hayward. They are shit wreckers on that defensive line. So I would have to go TJ there. And I know you're going to argue with me, but that's the truth.
Yeah, it's fine. There's no wrong answer here, but I think it's JJ for a few reasons. Number one, JJ's the blueprint. I mean, he taught TJ everything he needed to know. Number one, so he's the originator of all of this, right? Number one. Number two, I think the one thing we don't remember so much about JJ is TJ is an incredible edge rusher, but JJ could easily play over the nose. He could play on the edge. He was scoring touchdowns. They use him as a tight end occasionally to give him an extra touchdown or 2 here and there. He played all across the line. And then I think the other thing that I would give JJ the nod for is, look, the Steelers, as much as I want to trash talk that organization, they are a world-class organization, and they have been a dominant force for as long as I've been, for about 30 years now. And so TJ being able to be a seamless cog into that operation is amazing. But let's be very clear about the Houston Texans, man. This is started from the bottom. Now we here. JJ has been the foundation of that defense, and to a degree, he became the face of the organization. And I think he allowed for a framing of what the defense could be around him when he was there. And you can't really name another dominant defensive player that played with him in any of his tenure with the Houston Texans. And I say that respectfully to Mario Williams, Whitney Merciless, and Jonathan Joseph, respectfully. So I think when you think about it from that standpoint, just from an on the field in totality standpoint, I would definitely give the nod to JJ. But then I'm going to put the feather in the cap and think about all the money that he raised during the hurricanes that hit Houston, and the way that he became not only the face of the franchise, but then he became the face of the city. And I think as much as TJ is a beloved figure in Houston, JJ is I think probably the most important athlete in the city of Houston in the last 25 years. And I think that even goes beyond the likes of Altuve and Bregman and the Astros for what they did in the World Series.
All right, I'm going to throw in a bonus question here to get you guys fired up. Everybody gets fired up about food. I've spent a lot of time in both of your respective cities eating. So better signature, Houston barbecue or Permane Brothers in Pittsburgh, where, if you don't know, everybody, they put the coleslaw and the fries on the sandwich and then put it in so. All right, Eddie, better food, Houston or Pittsburgh?
Come on, Tree know the answer. Don't do this. Come on, man. You got to put bread on something to make it good. We talking about barbecue, bruh. All you got to do is put some salt and pepper on there, smoke it 12, 18 hours, pull that brisket out, fall off the bone. We all seen, look, the guy in California that got famous and that tendernism, that's Texas-style barbecue. His barbecue is from Texas. You know what I'm saying? So you just fall off the bone. It's just, you don't need no sauce. You don't need sauce. Just get it out the smoker. Let it rest. Get that smoke ring. Carolina, you know about the smoke ring. Come on now. Stop playing. It's barbecue. This is an easy answer. Come on, Tree. Don't do it. Don't do it, Tree.
Dude, I'm a barbecue man myself. I got myself an electric smoker last year. So I got to be honest, man. I got to go to barbecue too. I've been to North Carolina. I've had their barbecue. It's fantastic. I've had Texas barbecue too. And it is an adventure. I'm sorry. Permane Brothers is a Pittsburgh staple, but you have to have the right sandwich. If it's the Pittsburgher, it's not good. You got to have the Black Angus, the Colossal Fish, or the Raging Cajun. You have that, you have yourself a good little meal. But the thing is, that doesn't hold the candle to Texas barbecue, man. It's like trying to compare a ribeye steak to a Philly cheesesteak sandwich. You can't compare the two. I'm sorry, you just can't.
This is amazing. Caroline, you
I'm
get to
going to
decide
die
the
in
victor
Pittsburgh.
of
I
our...
know I'm going to die in Pittsburgh, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, I pray for you in the stadium. They're going to have things to say. Caroline, you get to pick the winner. What do we got?
I mean, I have learned that I do need to dip a little bit more into my Pittsburgh foodie scene bag because I have not heard of any of these things, but Houston is down. I mean, I think it's one of the most underrated foodie cities in the country. Barbecue, great sushi in Houston as well. Great food in Houston. But when it comes to the debate, the winner that really matters, the winner tonight, whatever, that's great and all. The winner today here on Yahoo Sports Debate, that is the one that really matters. Now, I have to give Eddie a whole lot of credit for acknowledging that Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback that you want with the game on the line. Love myself some CJ Stroud, but the answer 100% is Aaron Rodgers. So Eddie gets some brownie points for that one. But overall, I think the team that deserves it more, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been in a playoff win drought for so long. So Tree, congratulations. You have won today's debate.
Gentlemen, we appreciate you guys hanging out with the insight. Enjoy the game. This is going to be wild. Be sure that obviously you can reach, you can hang out with both of them all over the place. Eddie, you can read on cron.com in Houston. And Tree, you can follow out on YouTube with everybody else. Gentlemen, appreciate your time. Enjoy the game. And we'll have to make sure that there's parting gifts, by the way. Going to get addresses. We have parting gifts. Look at that.
Nice.
The parting gift is a little Yahoo Sports Daily mug. And then I'll tell everybody I've got
Don't give it away.
Gift cards. So no. Tree should know this. I've got remnants of gift cards that have like $3 left on it. So, you're going to get one of my couple bucks left on it. Let's see where it goes.
Hey, if it's Amazon, I'm all for it. That's all I'm going to say.
Perfect. Gentlemen, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Enjoy the game.
Nice. Hey, that goes a long way.
Appreciate you guys.
Hey, take care, guys.
Coming up next, the Bears storm back versus the Packers. What's it mean for that man's future? We'll talk about it next. Matt LaFleur blowing a 21-3 lead in the playoffs is even more hilarious when you realize he was on the Falcons sideline for 28-3. Hilarious really depends on who your audience is with this, because now I think I've managed to, all on a Monday morning, enrage both Packers and Falcons fans. Good for my Menchies. The Bears get a 31-27 lead where they put up, Green Bay gives up 25 fourth quarter points in a game that's certainly being called a choke today, and has us wondering if Matt LaFleur is even going to be the head coach of the Packers by the end of the day. Caroline, it was a tough watch to watch the meltdown of the Packers in the fourth quarter.
Meltdown. Meltdown is the correct word. A meltdown of epic proportion. Now, if Packers fans woke up on Sunday morning and even on Monday morning wanting Matt LaFleur gone, I don't blame them, because blowing a lead like that in a game like that against your bitter rival, against the team that you hate, a city that you hate, in that fashion, I understand if Packers fans want somebody's job to show for it, because that's how bad of a loss that was. I don't think Matt LaFleur should be or will be fired in Green Bay, because I don't know if there are enough coaches out there that are a better upgrade than Matt LaFleur. I like Matt LaFleur. Yeah, does he need more to show for it in the postseason? 1000%, yes, he does. Which is why I think Matt LaFleur, rightfully so, will be under a microscope in the days after losing to the Chicago Bears. But who are you going to get that's better? Is there a coach out there that you think is exponentially an upgrade offensively or just overall as a head coach over Matt LaFleur? I think Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator in Green Bay, should be fired. I mean, to give up a double-digit lead like that, to let the Bears convert on 4th and 8, I think was an absolute epic disaster. To let a rookie tight end in Colston Loveland go off the way that he did, absolutely positively unacceptable, fireable offenses. I don't care if Micah Parsons is healthy and on the field or not. Fireable offense for Jeff Hafley. But I think today Matt LaFleur is safe.
I think he is, because, look, I continue to say smart organizations rarely do rash things. Now, the Ravens have proved me wrong. So, what do I know? Maybe I'm just over presumptive that things will remain safe and consistent. But to your point, I think when you bring in a new coach, you also, yes, I understand you're bringing in a new voice, a new energy. It can help with all of those things. You also can end up sort of ripping things apart and rebuilding them. They lost to a team that this year is just kissed by the football gods. Like, I don't know right now how good the Bears are. It doesn't really matter. Like, they keep winning football games. I don't know what to make of a game where Caleb Williams, frankly, completed 50% of his passes, at times didn't even look great, and then in the fourth quarter looked superhuman. I found myself watching the first couple of quarters of this game screaming at the TV, stop drifting backwards, all the things that we've talked about. Like, this game was the personification of Caleb's career and of the Bears. Like, there were moments where you sit there and say, what are you doing? And then all of a sudden, when it comes down to it, they got that dog. Like, Caleb's got that dog in him. The Bears have that dog in them. Down a bunch in the fourth quarter, doesn't matter. They rail off 25 points because they have a swagger that Green Bay simply didn't in this game. So I don't know where the line is on all of it, but I also do think you look at it and say, okay, you lost a game that you shouldn't have lost, that really hurts all the way down to your core. Do you rip everything apart because of that? I don't know. And if your answer is we're going to rip it apart because, it hasn't been consistent enough, too many blown leads in big games. And then I see all the reports that they want Harbaugh, who was just fired for the same thing. Like, one man's trash, another man's treasure. I don't think there's a solution as easy as we'll fire LaFleur and everything will be just fine for Green Bay.
I always tell fans, be very, very careful about what you wish for. Because if you are fed up with a head coach, and I get it, but I think Packers fans have every right to be fed up with Matt LaFleur. I'm not telling you how to feel, but I would caution you to say that we don't even care who else is out there. We're just so done with him. You can do a whole heck of a lot worse than Matt LaFleur. Believe you me, I've seen it on full display, front and center. I agreed with the Titans' decision to move on with Mike Vrabel because I thought it's done. The Titans need to find better. And then now look at where the Titans are. One of the worst teams in the league. And Mike Vrabel just won a playoff game last night after putting together a 14-win season in New England. So be really careful what you wish for. Matt LaFleur is a great coach. He is an excellent coach. And I think he would skyrocket to the top of everyone's boards if they did move on from him in Green Bay. I understand that if the Packers did retain LaFleur, there would feel a little sense of wind out of your sails, or maybe a lack of things to really tangibly be excited for this Packers team next season. But I'm here to tell you that you can do so much worse. there will be changes in Green Bay. I think there should be changes in Green Bay. When you go one and done in the playoffs, especially in that fashion, especially against that team, it elicits changes. But again, I don't think it is time. I don't think things have run its course in Green Bay, but I also said that about Harbaugh. I didn't think things had run its course. I didn't think things had been that bad in Baltimore for long enough to warrant a coaching change. But sure enough, it was. So I've been wrong before, Fitzy.
Well, and look, I'll go to Adam Schefter, who tweeted this out about the Packers. I think wording matters. Schefter doesn't tweet anything accidentally. This is his wording about an hour ago, and he said Packers now are expected to try to work out a deal in the coming days to keep head coach Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, per sources. Now, think about that. LaFleur's going into the last year of his contract. So they don't have to work out anything to keep him for an extra year. They could lame duck him for a year and he could just remain on the sidelines. When Shefty says they're now expected to try to work out a deal in the coming days to keep him in Green Bay, he's telling you that they're working on a long-term extension. Also, he said he didn't say extend him, which he could have just left it there. He said keep him in Green Bay. So if your answer is, well, they're going to sign him and try and trade him, as so many people like to do, Shefty's words here are not accidental. So I think Shefty is telling you that the Packers do not believe that LaFleur is the problem. Does that mean that no changes will come? No, but certainly that to me screams to the fact that Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers are going to be together for the next several years. The flip side of this is the Bears, and I do want to quickly say, the more and more we get into this, the Bears just remind me of the Commanders last year. There was a spot last year where you couldn't always make sense of it. You just knew the Commanders were finding weird ways to win. You were watching their young quarterback grow up in front of everybody. You were watching a team that just over and over and over again in the fourth quarter, you thought, I don't know how the hell they did it. That's who the Bears are this year. I look at Chicago and say it doesn't really matter why they're winning this way. They are winning this way. There is something strange about the drug of belief, and that locker room has it. I mean, when they were down big, their body language never changed. They just feel like this year they're on a heater, and this year they need to capitalize on it because, man, when you are this kissed by the football gods, there's just the sky's the limit for what they're going to be capable of.
They truly are that meme. Like, they are probably the luckiest team in the National Football League. And you always say better to be lucky than good. And we've seen it on full display. The Bears can just fumble and bumble their way to a victory. And in the National Football League, that is all that matters. But I am someone that is so obsessed with proof of concept or seeing it before I believe it. I don't love that about myself, but I know that about myself. And I cannot buy into the idea that luck alone, and it wouldn't be luck alone, there's so much talent on this roster, but I can't buy into the idea that luck can catapult you to a Super Bowl. So I can't buy into the Bears in totality right now, today, to get to or win a Super Bowl right now, just because luck can and whenever a football is shaped so oddly, luck can go your way, as it has for the Bears in so many games this season, but it can also go the complete opposite. But what I learned about this Bears team is that they're going to be hanging around and they're going to be one of the better teams in the National Football League for the next 5+ years. You have a young quarterback. You have a rookie running back in Kyle Monangai who has been outstanding. You have a rookie tight end in Colston Loveland who has been incredibly reliable. DJ Moore is young. Ruma Dunze is in year 2. Luther Burden is in year 1. There are so many young pieces on this Bears core that even if it doesn't come to fruition this year, the Bears aren't going anywhere anytime soon.
This is hopefully the beginning of an era of greatness. When I think of Lady Luck in my dreams, looks a lot like Stephen Godfrey. Stephen Godfrey going to join us next. We'll get his thoughts on the dominance of that man and what to make of the college football playoffs so far. Coming up next. NFL teams have ignored Marcus Freeman's post about returning to Notre Dame. That per Ian Rappaport, interested teams still believe there's a chance Freeman makes a move to the NFL. Would not put him through the interview process. So one of the hosts of College Football Inquirer, friend of the show, Stephen Godfrey, joins us as he always does on Mondays. So let's start with that. Marcus Freeman, do you think if right now you had to bet your entire Godfrey empire, I like to put it on the line every week, Freeman Notre Dame coach empire. Or Freeman NFL coach next year?
Notre Dame coach. Next question. No, it's definitely Notre Dame coach. I think that eventually we could be discussing Marcus Freeman as an NFL candidate. I don't think it's going to be this cycle, and it has nothing to do with the teams or franchises that are currently looking for a head coach. Like my favorite team's looking for a head coach right now, so I'm in this. It has nothing to do with that. I think it has everything to do with him wanting to win a national title at Notre Dame, and I think that's it. I think you would need a colossal offer at a franchise where the core is set. And see, that's the weird thing about the NFL, and I cover college, is that you'll often, like with John Harbaugh right now, everybody's talking about he wants to go where they have an established quarterback. Usually, you don't have an established quarterback if you have an NFL head coach opening. The Ravens do, so, there's that. But no, I think right now Marcus Freeman's staying in college.
So, Marcus Freeman staying in college is not surprising to me, but what was a report that came out of over the weekend of Marcus Freeman allegedly getting into it with a coach at his son's wrestling tournament. What do you know about this situation? What can you tell us what comes next?
I don't know much. I know that, I saw what everyone else did, and I asked a few people about it. They said ultimately it's a non-story. Notre Dame had pretty quick alignment in the statements, and even in the scuttle as what we get in the media, everything's been sort of, say, one track right now. So unless there's new information, I don't know if it's going to be much of a story. I think this was just a kind of a weird off-field thing that I have. There are coaches you hear about. Marcus Freeman's not one of them in any sort of extracurricular way or anything off the field or has a problem with X or Y. Like his character's been impeccable up to this point. So yeah, that's the only thing I have right now. And I'm okay talking about this only because sometimes these things pop up and we feel the need to sort of turn them into conjecture. It's also okay to say in the media, hey, we don't know. Or hey, that doesn't sound like the individual that I know both on and off the record.
All right, so let's rewind the clock all the way back to Friday night where I was sitting there watching, drooling over the prospects of Fernando Mendoza being my favorite team's quarterback next year. I watched Indiana go out and just knock the snot out of Oregon.
Yeah.
Just walk me through sort of your reaction to not just the win, but the way Indiana did that to Oregon.
It's really boring. There's not a lot of fun schematic diagnosis on this Indiana team. What's crazy is all we talked about for 4 months was parity and everything's so unexpected now. And wow, college football is so different. I think we just have a 2013 Alabama team with IU on the helmet right now. This is as boring and efficient a college football team as you've seen since the Saban era. And I mean the peak Saban era, not the later years where they would stretch the offense a little bit more and you'd have more turnovers. I'm talking about Mark Ingram era, right? A.J. McCarron era Alabama. That's what they look like. They're efficient, they're brutal, and they're just really boring to talk about because the only thing I can tell you, Fitz, is they're fundamentally sound. So you look at the missed tackles that Miami had against Ole Miss. Look at the dropped interceptions that Miami had against Ole Miss. Indiana doesn't do that. That's it. There aren't margins that Indiana fails to exploit. It's all that tiny stuff. I mean, to the point where they look almost prescient in what they're doing. And that is extremely good coaching, extremely good roster management. We could talk about that in the offseason because that's all anybody wants to talk about these days is the portal. This roster that they've assembled right now is senior laden, experience laden, and they don't make a lot of mistakes. And they just kind of wait for you to make a mistake, honestly. In Oregon's case, it was the first play from scrimmage, and it kind of set the tone for the rest of the night. I thought Oregon did pretty decent after that to try and take their scripted drive and score. And then after that, it just felt like every other 50-50 situation went Indiana's way. I'm curious what their defensive like yards after catch are, or like what their missed tackled stats are. It's all this boring college football stuff where they're just insanely good and they turn games into routes.
The team whose Rose Bowl MVP was their center? Boring?
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
say, Godfrey.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Also,
to your point, this team is perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, their Rose Bowl center is there because he was a really good center at Notre Dame, but he was a backup. And when the starter came back, he was like, I think I've proven that I can be a starter here, even though Notre Dame wants to go with the other guy. So he goes to Indiana. And that's kind of the success in a nutshell. It's extremely good roster management. It's extremely good like identification of talent out there in free agency, whatever you want to call it now. And they've built it into something that's sharp and cohesive. And look, I'll be down in Miami next week and doing all the fun and the pomp and circumstance of a national title weekend. And I'm happy that it's in a warm weather environment. But I think I'm attending a coronation. I think this is going to be a blowout.
So to that point, I always call this time of year compare best team in the country to 2019 LSU season. And I've seen a lot of that from Indiana over the last couple of days. Where does this Indiana team rank among the best teams that we've ever seen in college football history? And where does Curt Cignetti rank as one of the best coaches in college football history?
So the latter is, I think, too early to sort of, even for the fun talk show hypothetical, it's probably too early to do the latter because he's on the cusp of his first national title. He's been at the power level for 2 years. So I just feel like it's crazy incomplete. Now the trajectory he's on is why people want to do this, right? Because 2 years in, he takes a doormat program to the playoff, and then the next year he probably wins the national title. Where they rank in a 2019 LSU sense is that I don't think the top end talent is the same. I think the defenses are very similar, but I think I would give a minor edge if we're going. I kind of feel like it would be not a shootout, but it would be sort of a call and response in the third or fourth quarter. If these two teams played, I think it would be very similar to some of the NFL wildcard games we saw this weekend. And I would still give the advantage to like a Burrow Chase combination to make a play at the end, but it would be close.
So I guess in my mind, then think about the fact that this is, according to the last time I looked, Indiana next year has the 33rd ranked recruiting class, whatever that's worth, right? We keep talking about their lack of 5 stars now. But that's going to be the same situation next year. The way that they're building and the way Cignetti is coaching, is this sustainable for an era of dominance?
You could probably win a couple national titles. That's an era of dominance. Fitzy, I don't even know what to do with recruiting rankings anymore. I know a lot of people have big feelings about this, and people who work in the recruiting industry will probably jump my hindquarters for saying that. But let's be honest, like some of the talent that we're seeing in the portal right now, you'll see average guy enters the portal from like Big Ten or SEC school, signs with another Big Ten or SEC school, and then you're like, well, when he signed in 2023, he was a 5-star and he was the number 3 offensive tackle in the class. And what strikes me about this is that we're not going back then and adjusting those merits. We're not going back and adjusting the context, meaning that I think Auburn had one of the best signing classes last year. Like Hugh Freeze was really nailing it out of high school. That didn't work out too well for my guy. I think we are in a transition period where it's hard to understand the value of saying we had the number 5 recruiting class in the country when 33 to 40% of it might not be there at all in 2 years. What is that? What is the merit of these signing classes? Now, I think what you're leading me towards is, can he keep sort of playing blackjack in the portal over and over again? And this is what I've said consistently the last 2 weeks. We started off with the portal acting like it was a dangerous thing to do that was going to break your roster because we saw Florida State gamble, win, and then lose big, right? We were trained for 15 years that you have to be dominant in high school recruiting and lock them in and keep them on campus, which is like the Saban and Smart type of methodology. What Cignetti is doing is a blend of these things, which is that eventually I think their high school recruiting will improve. They're also in the state of Indiana. They're not in Florida. They're not in Georgia. They're not in Louisiana, Texas, or California. Okay? So they're never going to be like, yeah, we got a crop of Indiana 5-stars. That doesn't happen. So you're always going to be portal reliant. what I go back to and what I keep saying is like these guys, some of these guys that are shining, some of the key players I think on Monday night, they're James Madison players. So he is developing. This idea that they're just constantly renting talent, I think, is false. They are identifying guys in the portal that they know that they can develop. And they're identifying guys who are like, this isn't like a 2-star, I can make a 3-star. This is more like a 2-star, I can make a 4 or 5-star. I think Indiana's a new kind of development program. And I think a lot of blue bloods in college football are really pissed off when I say that, because no, it's you got to be from a football state and you got to spend all your money this way and you got to do it this way. And like, no, we're about to see a national champion who's doing it in a way that we've never seen before.
I continually quickly die on the hill that the most accurate thing we could do is give you a high school recruiting score and then a keeping your own transfer people score and then a transfer portal score to come up with one aggregate. And then just like Madden and college football video games change those scores throughout the course of the year, it should be dynamic. We should be looking back at these players and saying, oh, this guy might have been a 2-star. Now he's a 4. It'd be a much more accurate way to do it. Caroline, that's my soapbox.
Yeah, the nerds are working on that, Fitz. It's just we haven't caught up yet with a way to aggregate. But I mean, like the quantitative people I know in advanced stats are working on that. It's just right now we're kind of in a gray area.
Shout out to the nerds. Thank you for that. You mentioned a couple times how you think Indiana's going to win the national championship. I am with you. I'm not going to be the idiot that picks against this team. But there is this kind of Disney fairy tale story surrounding Miami, right? Mario Cristobal, who won national championships at Miami, bringing them to their first national championship in over 2 decades. And oh yeah, by the way, it's in their home stadium. So what is the path for Miami to win a national championship?
If the U was a Disney princess, who would they be?
Ooh, that's a great question.
I'm in a hotel room, obviously, or else I would just yell down the hall and ask my 5-year-old daughter. She'd probably,
she has much better expertise on that.
She'd probably
Maybe
be
the Little
Frozen,
Mermaid, like Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid,
they have everything you want, but also don't have legs. So like just
Little Mermaid in a Rick Ross video, maybe. Do you want me to try and paint a picture for like a Disney type outcome here?
Please, yeah. Yes.
You have to involve the exceptional talent as frequently as possible, which is a fancy way of saying, if we're talking nothing but Ruben Bain, Malachi Toney over and over again, then I think Miami's got a chance. The problem is it's just Indiana doesn't beat you on the exceptional down. Indiana doesn't beat you on the big storybook down. It's not the third down that they beat you on. It's setting you up for 3rd and 12 instead of 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 4. It's scouting your tendencies to a point where they can just absolutely jump on an outbreaking ball and run it back for 6 points in the first play of the game. I thought that Ole Miss, if they did anything well in a game they probably should have lost by 4 touchdowns, was that Bain was a non-factor. Some of that physical, like really fast, really physical Miami front was a non-factor. 1, they had to respect Chambliss, and 2, they couldn't over-pursue. It's kind of the same thing. 1 and 2 are the same thing there. Mendoza's a very different quarterback. He's more about reading. It's a much more, I'm not saying Chambliss is stupid, but the way Mendoza is sort of talked about by coaches is in an NFL sort of caliber. He scans the line. He's much more intellectual about it. I think you just got to kind of knock the crap out of him. And I think you have to be just fearless and aggressive in your pass rush in a way that they weren't in some of these other games. And then you just need exceptional playmaker moments on offense. And Beck has to be clean. Like clean. I'm not convinced yet. I know we're at the national title game now. I know Georgia Carson Beck, okay? I have seen Miami Carson Beck, but I've also seen Miami Carson Beck cost them a game against Louisville. They would have been a bye team, probably the 2 seed, and we wouldn't have had any of this controversy, and Notre Dame would have made the play. All this stuff had he not completely just eaten it on, what was that, Friday night game? I remember the World Series was on, like against Louisville midseason, that kind of killed their standing. It also screwed the committee up because they thought that's where Miami was trending. He has the capacity to fall apart. Indiana has the capacity to make you look terrible. That's Dante Moore. Dante Moore's 2 worst games were against Indiana. This is why, like, even you've asked me to paint a Miami picture, and now I'm back in Indiana. So that's the problem. Turnovers, exceptional playmakers, and probably some of the most creative play calling you've ever seen will have to come out of Shannon Dawson for them to be in it in the third quarter.
Nobody does it better than the College Football Inquirer Show, which you can check out on Yahoo Sports, and obviously follow him on social media at 38 Godfrey. Steven, appreciate you. I'm just going to spend the next several months singing ABBA Fernando while I wait for the first overall pick in the NFL draft, my friend. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Are you like a soprano or like what kind of pitch do we have?
Look, if it gets us a quarterback, I'll go with any. I got range. I got range, buddy.
Can you play it? Can you play it?
Yeah. I can definitely play it. Yeah.
Let's
I might
go.
be doing that in Pittsburgh
Come on,
at the
that's
draft.
content.
At the draft, I might just
the producers
be,
can hear me right now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's right. All right. I'm gonna work on a string arrangement for ABBA. I played a string quartet album that was all Queen hits one day. Maybe I'll do ABBA. All right. Godfrey, appreciate your time.
Fernando.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Fernando.
There we go. It never gets old. All right, coming up next.
It really
doesn't.
doesn't.
We will preview one game left. We'll tell you about. Actually, no. We're going to preview the NFC Divisional round. I'm going to learn what we're talking about next. Yahoo Sports Daily. That's what Fernando does to me. The defending champion Eagles have been eliminated, which means the divisional round is set. 49ers at Seahawks, Rams at Bears. All right, Caroline, which of those matchups are you most excited for?
After the games that we got on Saturday, we knew that Bears-Packers was going to be an all-timer, and it delivered. If not, it delivered even more than my wildest expectations. And then Rams-Panthers. Rams-Panthers ended up being a game after we spent all Friday saying, this is going to be a fart. This is going to be a fart. It was an awesome game. So after those two games that we got, fun games down to the wire, came to the very last play, came down to the very last minute of the game, I'm taking Rams-Bears.
Oh, man, that's interesting. I did not think you were going to go Rams-Bears for the better of those two matchups. Like, this 49ers team, as much as I just said the Bears have definitely have the football gods in their corner and Lady Luck is on their side, this 49ers team, as we talked about earlier, might be the most resilient team left in this entire thing. And I can't make sense of it. Like, they shouldn't be a hard out for the Seahawks. They're decimated by injuries. This should not be a difficult one. But, man, I am done betting against the 49ers. The 49ers just went into Philly and handled the defending Super Bowl champions and lost George Kittle and still won that football game. I don't know. Like, to me, this Seattle, like, because I'm still trying to figure out how much we can buy in. I've got trust issues with the Seahawks. I'm not going to lie. I keep looking at this saying I shouldn't have trust issues, but I do have trust issues, right? So for me, I think this Rams-Seahawks game just because it is divisional matchup. It's two teams that know each other incredibly well. So you eliminate the variables of what game planning looks like in this situation. Like, they know what they're up against. This is pure execution. This is two coaches, two great coaches going at it from a scheme standpoint. Oh, give me Kyle versus McDaniel all day, every day. And how wild is it that I'm sitting here saying, give me Purdy versus Darnold? Like a statement that 2 years ago nobody thought they would ever want. Give me Purdy versus Darnold in the NFC playoffs. I'm in on that NFC matchup being the better of the two games.
There are certain rematches I don't feel like I need to see. I'm good. I don't need to see it for a third time. I have zero issue seeing 49ers Seahawks for a third time, because the first two times that we got it in the regular season, it was epic. I just can't. The reason why I gave Rams Bears the edge was I cannot keep out of my mind. I can't forget that game right there. I can't forget how kind of boring at times that was, how much of a slugfest that really was. How we were talking about a 49ers team that coming off of that Bears win, it was, well, 49ers, doesn't matter if they have all those injuries defensively, because their best defense is their offense. They can put up 40 points a game. Well, that game, we saw the Seahawks totally and completely shut the 49ers down. So what makes this intriguing is I don't know if the Seahawks are going to be able to recreate that game plan. I respect Kyle Shanahan and who he is as a coach way too much to say that this 49ers team is just going to roll over against this Mike McDonald defense. But we have seen this game with this matchup. We did see this matchup just a couple of weeks ago. I'm excited to see, a Rams team that's kind of been limping down the stretch. What can the Bears luck do against what I view as the most complete team in the National Football League in the Rams? Does the luck stop here, or is the Chicago Pope keep all of the good vibes rolling and Chicago does what feels like the impossible, and the second-year quarterback taking down the vet and likely MVP Matthew Stafford? There's so many juicy little storylines here that I just can't help but fall in love with.
All right, so let me ask you this. Of the four quarterbacks we have left, Brock Purdy, we mentioned Sam Darnold, we've got Caleb, you've got Stafford. Which quarterback do you trust the least?
I think it's Darnold. And it very well could be my favorite quarterback of this bunch as well. But it's also the quarterback that I trust the least. When I go down the line of the weaknesses of any of these teams, like what are these teams' Achilles' heels eventually going to be? Poor choice of words there. But what is the ultimate downfall or pitfall potentially for these teams going to be? For the Rams, I'm like, well, they haven't played great down the stretch. Special teams have been an issue. For Chicago, it's is the inexperience going to rear its ugly head. For San Francisco, it's the defense. Are they going to be able to keep up this level of play with all of the injuries that they have? For Seattle, it's Darnold. For me, if Seattle does get bounced and they don't win a Super Bowl, I think it will be because Sam Darnold does what he has done in the past and throws just the worst turnovers in the worst possible times. So I think it is Darnold, even though he has played at such a high level this season. I think it is Darnold because he still has that. He still has that turnover ability. He still has that gene in him that just tends to throw picks in the worst possible moments. Am I wrong in feeling that way?
No, you're right, but that is not my answer, and I don't feel good about my answer, but I'm going to say it. It's getting me killed. The quarterback that I trust the least in this round out of those four is actually Caleb. And I know Caleb just did Caleb Williams just had one of the best throws we'll see in the playoffs to make sure that the Bears turn around and win this game. Caleb in the fourth quarter was absolutely incredible. It was chef's kiss. But that doesn't change the fact that over the course of that entire game, Caleb Williams completed 50% of his passes. In fact, if you go back to the beginning of November, to now, 7 times Caleb Williams has completed 55% or less of his passes. If you look at the entire season from week 1 to where we are now, he's only had a QBR of over 105 times all year. So, the weird part about Caleb is that we are so used to the fact that he will make a remarkable play out of nowhere that has your jaw hits the floor and the Bears win because of it. And we look at that and we say, oh my God, Caleb Williams is lights out. But the fact is, for other portions of the game, he just isn't. So if I'm asking trusts here, then I'm asking which quarterback can I trust for 4 quarters? Like if you tell me I got 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter and I need one of these quarterbacks to win me, Caleb's going to be in my top 2. There's no question about that. It's going to be between Caleb and Stafford. But if we're talking about an overall 4-quarter game, there's I feel bad saying this about somebody that just played so well on the highlights, but that wasn't a great game by Caleb at times. And over the course of the last month, he's had several games that just weren't great games overall. So I'm still a little bit out on where Caleb is. Again, I know I harp too much on the completion percentage, but I will remind everybody this year for the entire season, Caleb Williams, including the playoff game, completed 58% of his passes. Caroline, that's not good.
Mm-hmm. It's not. And that's the Caleb Williams experience. Caleb Williams will miss a wide open receiver like 5 yards downfield. He will miss the checkdowns, and then he'll make a throw that like only one person on the planet can make. He won't take the gimmies, but will make the pop off the page. Holy cow, he just defied physics. How in the world did he just make that throw kind of play? So I can trust Caleb Williams to do those kinds of things. We just saw it against the Packers, back against the wall, facing 4th and 8. And what do? You come up with a big throw when it matters most. But not taking the gimmies does concern me. You're going to need to take those gimmies once you play against some of the better teams in the National Football League.
Plenty to break down. We'll be right back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. for Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. Thanks for watching Yahoo Sports Daily. Come back tomorrow.